Possibly, but the argument that a lot of these reports are caused by exotic military equipment, I haven't yet warmed up to, because most of those aircraft or reconnaissance platforms probably are capable of very high speed, and if it's very high speed, they have very powerful engines, and that's not something that is going to hover over your back lot. So the argument that most of these sightings of anomalous objects are of military equipment, as I say, I haven't yet warmed up to.
Okay, go next to Oklahoma, east of the Rockies. Robin's with us. Hey, Robin, welcome to the show.
Hi, George.
Hi.
Hi, Mr.
Peter.
Davenport. Well, Peter.
Hi, Robin.
Well, yeah, I guess you kind of blew it. What I saw was in the east, but it had. I talked to the satellite dish place. It says it on the TV. It's like 22,000 miles up, and I asked them if we could see it, and they were kind of laughing at me, going, "Nuh-uh," you know. But what I saw, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it had lights on it, and it just kind of moved back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was.
Well,
I even got the binoculars out and looked at it.
Yep. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your call, Robin. Very interesting report. But this underscores the importance of reporting a sighting of something unusual as quickly as you can. It's very difficult, probably impossible would be a better term in this instance, for a UFO investigator to identify what a person has seen 3 years ago. And it's very, very difficult, borderline impossible, to try to find other witnesses to the same case without photographic evidence, without other witnesses, without, most of all, written, detailed statements of what witnesses have seen. It is almost impossible for a person in my position to be able to say what it was you saw that night.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Let's go to Soton, Washington, west of the Rockies. It's Susan's turn. Hi, Susan. Go ahead.
Hi. Well, I think I've got the information that you're looking for. Actually, I go to SOHO. It's NASA's website, probably every day. And today, actually, you guys probably will want to look it up. You go to the box where it says the sun now, and it does say CCP burnout. Well, click it anyways. And then you go to Laszlo C2 box, and then you go to right below it. It says more, and it'll say 512 by 512, and that's for your pictures, more pictures of the time. Now, what you're going to want to do is go to. It starts at 7.
Well, what are we going to be looking at, Susan? Because it's easier for people to find.
Okay, the sun does an explosion. Okay, CME. But the thing is it hits something. This is the strangest I've ever seen. It hits something, and you can see it, and it stays there. The explosion goes out, okay, and it's 12-minute intervals on the pictures, and the pictures start at 1812 on 728, and they go all the way through till 729.
Well, how do you know it hit something, Susan?
Because you can see it.
You can see whatever it hit?
Yes.
What did it look like?
It's round and it's big.
Peter, I've never heard of this one before.
It's today. I saw it. Yeah, I went on for an hour this morning, and then I went back this afternoon. Now, the last picture where you don't see it anymore is at 7:29 at 6:34.
All right.
That's the picture where you don't see it anymore. The picture right before.
All right. What do you think this is, Peter?
Well, it's very difficult to comment intelligently until I've seen the data, but I will say thanks very much for the call, Susan. It's nice to talk to a fellow Washingtonian. I'm sitting in the same state that you are, of course.
Are you still in that a missile silo?
Well, I'm not in it, George. I'm about 7 miles south of it, but someday I may live in it if I screw up my courage and finally get it cleaned up. It is a big, big, and dirty facility. But we got here at the National UFO Reporting Center, we get many, many reports from the Soho site, but in my opinion, most of the anomalous information that appears on that site is due to optical aberration or perhaps a data drop. I'm not familiar with the system. I'm not familiar with how they post information to that site, but I haven't seen anything on that site yet that captures my attention and suggests to me that it is capturing genuine UFOs. After all, if they were as big as they appear in some of those photographs and they're near to the sun, they must be gigantic, and that seems highly unlikely to me based on my experience.
We have a text in for you. Joey from Tampa Bay wants to know if you think that disclosure will happen before 2012.
Well, I'm one of those people who doesn't place any great significance on the year 2012, but I can answer Joey's question nevertheless. Very interesting question. All of us UFO investigators are asking ourselves, I think, how long the government is going to be able to keep the lid on the UFO subject. If I'm able to build a passive radar system, not very long. But other countries, other governments have admitted that they recognize the UFO phenomenon as a real phenomenon. Back about 10 or 12 years ago, the French government, or some of the former public servants of the French government, released the Cometa report, COMETA, very, very interesting document. Now, thanks to Stan Friedman, I think it's been translated to English. 2 years ago, I think it was May 14th, 2008, the English government came forward and said they were going to be releasing their files. They've been releasing them by the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. You have to admit that that's a lot of information about UFO sighting reports that they claimed were just a fiction, that the phenomenon was not a real phenomenon. Chile has done the same. Belgium has done it. It's a question of how long the U.S. government is going to masquerade by pretending that the UFO phenomenon is not real. It clearly is. And I think the evidence is mounting, and I think ultimately the government's going to have to reveal to the American people the information they have on this subject.
One or two more callers here for you, Peter. James in Johnson City, Tennessee is on Coast to Coast. Hi, James.
Hey, George. How are you doing, sir?
Okay.
And Peter, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well, James. Thanks for your call.
Yes, sir. I'm in law enforcement, and, of course, I work in the foothills of Tennessee, and so every night I see various objects throughout the sky, whether it be satellites, shooting stars, planets, and such. But I had an experience maybe a couple of months ago that was a little out of the ordinary, and we had received a call on it, and it was evidently a quote-unquote floating orb over the farm field. And such calls come in from time to time, but I responded to it, and I observed that it was not so much an orb as it was, a usual quote-unquote cigar-shaped UFO, unidentified flying object, and there was not one single source of light on it that was giving off, but rather the entire hull or skin, if you will, was irradiating. And it climbed maybe 400 or 500 feet by my estimate, and the lights went off, but I could see markings on it. And to my surprise, it was standard, English markings. If memory serves correct, it revealed Sierra Foxtrot, or SF 189. Which was very interesting to me, because here I am thinking, my gosh, alien invasion or something, but I'm seeing legible English written on the side of it. After that, it just seemed to literally evaporate into midair. And so after that, especially with legible English markings, it was hard to fathom that could be an alien craft.
Oh, I would agree with you on that, James. And Peter, years ago, several police officers, as you know, from Millstadt, Illinois, saw a huge triangular-shaped object and they still can't figure out what they saw. You remember that case?
Absolutely. I took the first call from Ed at 02:38 hours on the 5th of January 2000, George. I remember that case very, very clearly.
It was one of the best. One of the
that
Peter,
was a dramatic case, you bet.
I want to thank you for spending the hour. We got to do this more often. Peter's website, linked up at coasttocoastam.com. It's the UFOcenter.com. And by the way, always check our Twitter feed at coasttocoastam.com. As a matter of fact, Lex has a couple links up there for you, too. So there you go. We'll be back with Linda Bolton Howe.